This is an experience of the void.
Caleb Scofield was a talented musician who played bass and sang in Cave In, Old Man Gloom, and Zozobra. In 2018, he tragically passed in a car accident and was mourned deeply by his loved ones and the music community at large. Hi, I'm Christina. Welcome to Occupy the Void, a new podcast about music and mental health. With me today is my co-host Tim Charles and our special guest Stephen Brodsky of Cave In, Old Man Gloom, and so on. Speaking of like emotion, like one of my favorite live recordings of all time is your Roadburn record. I've spoken to you about this before, the Roadburn, tribute in back in 2018, and we are coming up to the 6-year anniversary of Caleb passing.
Gone into the void. God must need them more anyway.
That was the first show that both Adam and I played after Caleb passed away. We just thought, hey, let's do something together to kind of focus on the music together and to get our mind off the dark stuff. At first we were like, hey, let's just find a little open mic night thing to do, But the people at Roadburn were so gracious and supportive. The room was packed. It was just mind blowing.
Could have sworn that we made a man's heart sweat away.
We were whacked out on grief, but again, having hundreds of shows under our belt, it was this really kind of wild mesh of like having done something hundreds of times, having played some of these songs hundreds of times.
Yeah.
Never experiencing a feeling of grief like that before.
What was it like kind of finding him as a musical partner and stuff?
I definitely met Caleb through music. Cave In and his early band, Strike 3, we toured together. That was the first time that Cave In ever went on tour. When it came time for us to find yet another bass player back in 1997, his devotion to learning our songs was really something else. Like, he wasn't joking when he said he locked himself in his closet for like days straight, just trying to dissect and internalize all the stuff that we were writing that eventually became Until Your Heart Stops. And I don't know if many people know how much he really loved the outdoors. I'm thinking about this because recently I went on a hiking trip and I got legit lost in the woods for like 4 hours. But I just thought of Caleb at moments during this insanity, and I was like, man, he would be laughing at me so hard right now.
I think like what's interesting is how it seemed like you guys was really plugged in together.
Losing a friend, no matter what, no matter who you are, no matter what the situation is, it's awful. What was different about the situation with Caven, even Caleb, is that we had each other, and Caven and Caleb had fans that were willing to commiserate with us and were also grieving.
Sing my loves, sing my enemies, sing my sorrows.
That is actually a strange gift of grief. I think it sort of shatters your world in a way where you look down and you look at the pieces that are integral to your makeup and you just grab for those. And the stuff that's not important, the stuff that is secondary, you just leave it on the floor, I have vivid memories of what that felt like, around the time of Caleb's passing, other losses in my life. And, in my experiences working with various therapists and such, one thing that has stuck with me through this and dealing with grief is, what can you take from it? What do you take from it? And it's such a gross feeling at first. So what can I take from this fucked up thing that just happened, this really sad event, this sometimes it's senseless, doesn't make sense, can't make sense of it, but you can at least hold on to that idea, as weird as it might feel in the throes of grief. You start to realize, well, I need to live through this. I need to survive through this. So what can I take from this in order to make it so that it just didn't happen for no reason?
I might have believed in a miracle once Everest. Oh.
The process of dealing with grief, I always imagine it like it's this huge pile. And there's this enormous difference between dealing with grief when someone maybe has a long illness. Someone gets cancer, maybe they take 3 or 4 years to die. Whereas with something that's really sudden, you talked about being whacked out on grief. I think you said it was only about a month after something so enormous and so sudden happening.
Grief is someone who just comes along for the ride and they never leave. Driving around one day, listening to the radio, and Rush came on. Here Comes the Limelight, the song that I've heard times. And the solo kicks in, and this is just, a few months after Caleb passed. And hearing that guitar solo, I don't know what it was, but it just was ringing me like a towel. And there I am, just like sobbing at my steering wheel.
When I think about, listening to a bit of music that you love, like that maybe there's a guitar solo and you connect with it. Generally what I find is, because we get so stuck in our thoughts of this, that, and the other, but when we hear something musically that we're passionate about, especially as a musician, I know, you're going to be able to connect deeply with music, it does kind of soften ourselves a little bit. And so instead of just being kind of stuck or distracted with this, that, or the other, we kind of can become a bit more connected with our body and just our feelings. And then all of a sudden we just have that little connection, even just through music. And then the blockages that maybe are there that were stopping us really feeling what we're feeling, all of a sudden those floodgates kind of get opened up. And that's one of the really powerful things about music as therapy. It can kind of help us connect with, because there's different songs and styles and genres or whatever that kind of almost invoke, I don't want to say necessarily a particular feeling or emotion, but an energy. And for each people, that can be a little bit different. But when there's something that connects with the energy of where you're at right now, all of a sudden, bam, all of a sudden you feel all the feels.
Yeah, that's very true. And world of distractions and things clamoring for your attention, left and right, advertising and responsibilities, all that fun stuff. Sometimes it's just hard to really connect with the raw nerve of whatever it is that kind of makes you who you are, right? And music has a way of cutting through that sometimes, but you got to be open, you got to allow it.
Now remember your heroes as a cancel out zero. You were never the one. You were never the one to break away.
As far as going to those dark places, I mean, I'm kind of used to it. It's part of my job, I guess. I got to scrape the bottom in order to get the good stuff.
This is an experience of the void.